Hey everybody, it's Tragan, and today I'm going to show you around my car. It's a 2004 Mercury Sable GS. It's got a 3-liter V6 Duratec engine in it. That probably doesn't make sense to any of you, and it doesn't make any sense to me either. That's just what my manual says. Anyways, I'm going to show you around this thing because it's kind of a piece of crap, but it gets me from point A to point B, and it seats 6 people, actually. Very uncomfortably, but it seats 6 people. So the first thing to notice about this car is the looks. You might have recognized this shape of car. This is actually basically a Ford Taurus that's been rebadged and changed very slightly by the Ford Motor Company so they could rebrand it as a Mercury. It's based on the exact same platform and has the exact 2 engine options that the Ford Taurus does. However, some differences include the headlights, taillights, a slight curve in the body. Now, originally this front grille was actually chrome with a chrome and black logo. However, I definitely got rid of that pretty quick. I spray painted it black almost as soon as I got the car. That was the first thing I really did to the car, which isn't much besides cosmetic. But then for a while I had it spray painted silver and orange, don't ask, and then I spray painted it back to black. Also, something I was pretty excited about getting this car for was that actually I was one of the first people to have the new Illinois license plates, which is pretty cool. And by first people, I mean one of the first few thousand, but, you know. We've got some 16-inch steel wheels with some less than flattering plastic caps on them. And for tires, I'm rocking some pretty cool Michelin Defender XTs. There's not a lot of tread left on these bad boys, but it gets me around. And, well, I'm broke, so I can't really afford to replace it. Also, my rear wheel wells are very rusted. It's kind of a problem, but it's just body work. So you're greeted by a pretty boring door here, just a handle and a keyhole, and then this mirror here has no blind spot, anything like that, no turn signal indicator. I mean, it's just from 2004. Just kind of comparing to today's times where those kind of things are kind of standard on cars. Yeah, so let's just open it up. The LS model will have a keypad on the top, depending on what options it has. So let's take a look at the interior of this car. As you can see, if you've ever seen a Ford Taurus from around this era, this looks exactly the same. They did not change a single thing about this interior. Only thing that's different is that this is a Mercury logo instead of a Ford logo. But you get inside, it's a pretty basic interior. You have your your turning indicator column and your headlights here, your headlight brights here, as well as your wipers. Also, noise warning. You have your lights. On the right side, this is a column shifter. You have normal park, reverse, neutral, obviously. Now, the little D with the O around it, with the white around it, that's overdrive. And the D is just standard drive. And then 1 is for low, for when you're stuck in less than ideal conditions. You also have your tachometer here, your temperature gauge, your fuel gauge, and your speedometer. And you will see the miles that you've driven on that little screen right there when we start it up here in a minute. Your radio is pretty basic. Back in 2003, when this model year came out, you had 2 options. You could either have a cassette or CD. This has CD, which was a pretty cool option back in that day. But nowadays it's kind of unfortunate because I can't even use a cassette adapter to play my own music, so I'm kind of stuck with the radio. And here we have some vents. There's 4 vents here inside the car. 1 for the driver, and then 1 for the passenger specifically, and then 2 middle vents that are split between. There are no vents in the back, just a side note. You've also got the defroster vents up here. The defroster, I mean, it's a 15-year-old car. It works well enough. The sound system's nothing to gawk at. I mean, it gets decently loud, but it doesn't sound very good, and the audio's kind of unbalanced now that it's old. The left speaker started to fade away, so I had to balance the audio to the left. Now, the heat was crappy on this thing when I first bought it. And again, I give it a lot of leeway because this is an old car. It's a 15-year-old car. I can't expect a ton. However, it's pretty good now that I've fixed it. It's about as good as a 15-year-old car can be. It blasts pretty hard. as you can see. That's on the defroster, and that's on normal heat. It's really warm already. That's because I was driving earlier. Other than that, it takes a little while to heat up. It's also got a rear defroster that actually works impressively fast. That is probably the quickest heating thing in this car. Is definitely the rear defroster. That works within probably about 30 seconds of turning it on. That thing is intensely hot. Yeah, they've got a good amount of settings for, there's not a lot of middle ground. It's either, okay, cool transition, and then completely blasts. So there's not really too much of a middle ground, but it's not bad. The radio wheel is pretty simple. You push to turn off, push to turn on, right to turn up, left to turn down. H for the hour, for the time, M for the minute. All this stuff is really straightforward. Then you have all your bass, treble, balance settings, fade settings. So you can also have 2 FM settings, FM1 and FM2, and 6 pre-made stations on each one. AM, however, only has 1. So just keep that in mind. Don't know how often you'll be listening to AM, but yeah. Also up top here, you have some mirrors and things. Hello, me. Once again, pretty basic. There's no light either, but honestly, how many people do you know driving this that care about their makeup? The back seat of this car seats 3. Pretty comfortably, actually. The hump is pretty big for a car like this. And the back seats fold down, so you can see into the trunk there. And kind of access stuff, or extend your storage if you need to. And this seat does as well. There are some mats back here that never stay in place. And some pretty handy cargo storage. I put a vest there for emergencies and things like that. I've also got rubber gloves in there. And then some magazines, just in case I'm taking a longer trip and people want to make fun of me for having magazines in my car because it's 2019. You've also got 2 pretty handy cup holders here. Although, I wouldn't trust these things for my life. Honestly, they're kind of sketchy, as you can see. You just flip down the middle part and that's it. I don't trust these things at all, in the slightest. Now you might be wondering, how does this seat 6? I mean, the back is 3 and the front is 2, right? Well, wrong, actually. I'll get to why I have a wheelchair there in a minute, but this center column here, that for some reason you might be thinking, why isn't the shifter in the middle? Well, you flip this up, take out any things you have in there. There's the seat belt for the middle part, which, honestly, if you've got 3 fully sized people in here, it's not gonna work out. I just tried to do this Saturday, and I tell you what, it does not work. But if you ignore the seatbelt laws, you can fit 3 people in here all right. They can have their seatbelt on, you can have your seatbelt on, and you just better hope that the person in the middle doesn't fly through, because then you've got a hell of a lawsuit on your hands. So now that I'm inside and warm, I can finally explain what that wheelchair was all about. Basically, I saw that at a Walgreens with my friend, and I thought it was hilarious. It's actually from a X Games kind of competitor. His name's Aaron Wheels with a Z. Look him up. He's got a YouTube channel actually, and basically he does X Games, but for like wheelchair, and it's super cool. I mean, this guy is crazy. He has extreme drive, and he's a really big inspiration for disabled and people who aren't disabled. But yeah, I keep in my car as a reminder that if I keep doing stupid things and driving like a dumbass, then I might end up in one, and that would be unfortunate. So, does it work? Kinda? Not really, but it's a cool message. In terms of trunk space, this car's pretty good, actually. Quite a lot of storage, as you can see. I have a lot of crap left over from this summer, but yeah, pretty good. So, without further ado, let's start this thing up. So as you can see, there's the odometer there in the middle, and you can see how many miles I've driven. There's a lot of miles on this thing, 156,111. That's a lot, especially for an American car like this. So as you can see, there's our wiper controls, our lights here, as we've gone over, the high brights, and then my shifter. So not bad. A pretty basic setup, nothing too special. It doesn't give you a ton of information, which I do like. Now this thing does have cruise control, technically. I've tried to get it work multiple times. I honestly think it doesn't work anymore, and that's okay. Here you can see there's set, info, reset. That's for the cruise control, set and reset. But info, you see how many miles to the gallon you get? I get about 15, less than impressive. Trip, I have not reset. You can reset the trip as well. So it's been a while since I've done that. Time, that's also for trip. And then there's nothing. You can have nothing on there. But I usually keep it on either 201 miles to empty, which I actually don't trust. This is more of a comedic factor because this is so unreliable. You'll drive a half a mile and then it'll drop 5 miles. I typically keep it on the miles per gallon because that's the most useful to me. It typically wavers between anywhere from 15 to 16. I did have car troubles a while back that I luckily got fixed, but I was down to about 10 or 11 miles per gallon. So that kind of sucked. So how's the exhaust sound, you might be asking? Well, I don't really have a volunteering participant to rev the exhaust, but take a listen. So there you have it, an overview of what I drive every single day. It's not much, but like I said, it gets me from point A to point B, so I can't complain. Anyways, stay safe, guys. I know it just snowed, so don't die, and have a good one.
Sir, requesting permission for a brother and handshake.
Very well. Dismissed.
Aye, aye, sir.